You are listening to From There to Here, a Star Trek Enterprise podcast. Hello, my name is Josh, and with me is
Justin.
Today we're reviewing Season 1, Episode 26, Shockwave, Part 1. According to Wikipedia, this is what it's about. While visiting an alien mining colony on Paragon 2, a shuttle accidentally sets fire to the large amounts of tetracytosine in the atmosphere, instantly incinerating 3,600 colonists on the surface. On the IMDb, I don't know what it's rated. Why don't you read your trivia and I'll let you know after that.
Okay, well, this has an original air date of May 22nd, 2002. And there really wasn't much in the way of trivia for the production other than to say, according to Wikipedia, producer Rick Berman was proud of how the cliffhanger episode turned out. Quote, "I think it will blow people away."
I like the way, yeah, that was a lot of enthusiasm.
Brandon Braga was also pleased with how the episode turned out and said the episode speaks to the entire season that came before it, because for the first time T'Pol stands with Archer instead of fighting against him.
That's true.
And they work together to vindicate Enterprise and continue their mission, despite both Starfleet and the Vulcan High Command having decided the mission was a failure.
But more importantly,
Boom, boom, boom.
It blows you away.
It will blow you away. Josh, were you blown away?
Oh, man, I was clear across the country, man.
Across the galaxy?
Yeah, because this has an 8.4 on
Wow.
IMDb. That's the highest
That's high.
we've ever seen. The highest we've seen up to this point has been
Say
8.
it again? 8.1?
8.4.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Only 1.6 points away from being a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, something tells me we're not going to get that. But I don't think any Star Trek episodes of any series are rated that high.
Are you serious?
As a 10?
Oh,
No.
come on.
Best of Both Worlds.
Best of Both
is the only
Worlds?
thing that gets close, but
It's
it's not
got
going to
to.
be. It's not going to be a 10.
You don't think?
I don't think it's rated a 10.
The first one? The first half?
No, come on.
You don't think it is?
It's not.
It's got to be close.
We're not talking about the Shawshank Redemption here.
9.975.
Come on.
Well, we're talking relative, in relative terms. Are you looking? 'Cause now I'm
Yeah. Oh, I
curious.
have to know now.
Okay.
So,
I would assume Best of Both Worlds is arguably one of the highest rated.
well, that's without a doubt. But to what its rating
That
is,
and In the Pale Moonlight,
yeah, that It's a Fake episode.
it's a fake.
Best of Both Worlds is 9.3. Part 1, 9.3.
Yeah.
So, I thought maybe 9.5 ish,
Mhm.
but okay.
Okay.
What about Shockwave Part 1?
What are you asking?
Anything?
Are you asking me what I think?
Where do you want to start?
Oh, well, I would like to know. Do you think this deserves an 8.4?
No.
6? No?
No, I mean, I thought Dear Doctor and I think Fallen Hero, I think was the other 8 we
Mhm.
had. I thought those were better episodes. This was a good one, but it wasn't. I don't think it was up there.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. I think it was fine. It was good. I do think that
It's difficult because this is a part.
It's
one.
a part one.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And in reading some of the trivia, the production, apparently a lot of people felt part 2 didn't live up.
Oh, really? That's got something to look forward to next week.
Though. I'm sorry, but I mean,
Okay.
that happens. But I was thinking about it though, without even, quite frankly, remembering at all what
Mhm.
part 2, what happens in part 2. In reading that production note I did that, they thought it would blow your mind and all of that. I really think, I would say they spent the first act, maybe the first 2 acts,
Mhm.
with Archer in a real slump and them thinking they caused this problem.
Right.
I think, again, without remembering part 2, I think it might have been a stronger episode had pretty much part 1 entirely played with the idea that they're toast. They're going back. And,
I would have preferred if they did stay with that
and
plot
have
thread a
it
bit
be
longer.
because that's.
I would say actually have them maybe get home
That's what
and
I'm
then
saying.
have to deal with this shit
Yes.
getting taken apart or something.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
not that far.
Oh, I'd
but
love to see it. Like
to see the nacelles.
they have to take the furniture out and
well, let's not go that
stuff.
far, but like maybe we're gonna scrap the nacelles and put them on this ship,
and
have it be an interstellar thing,
or maybe
whatever.
show the blueprints of what we're gonna do with your nacelles.
I think it might have been cool.
Yeah.
Okay, we're already at the end where we
we're in the
rewrite
writer's room already.
Yeah, let's wait. Let's save that because I do have some thoughts.
Okay,
but well, I guess I can't go on about what I was talking about. But well, fuck it. Let's just bleep bleep. let's just go to the writer's room.
Yeah, let's go to the writer's room. Okay.
So I think it would have been a really, really interesting way to go to have the whole episode be about their decommissioning. And like you said, have time pass because they're out there. Have it be where the initial event happens, and then we see, we get the call from Admiral Forrest, where he tells him, "You're being canceled. Come back to Earth." And he's like, "Whoa, canceled? What?" And so they do, and then fade to black, fade out, and Archer's in his quarters just throwing that little volleyball up into the air, and it says like 2 or 3 months later, and they're back to Earth.
Yeah.
And then you hear, "Do, sir, we've arrived." And you're like, "Oh, arrived where?" You're thinking, "No, they can't be." And he looks out the window, and there's Earth.
Right.
And he comes out, and then Hoshi says, "Sir, they're requesting you beam down to Starfleet quarters immediately." And he's like, "Okay." So, he puts on his best tie, goes down, and, he takes the hit, and he puts it all on him. He takes all the blame away from the crew. And when he comes out of the briefing, maybe Trip and T'Pol are waiting for him. And they say, what happened? And he said, it's over. It's gone. You're all being reassigned. The ship is going to be decommissioned. He said, I don't know what they're going to do, but, and he said, well, what about you? What about you, sir? And he'd say, for right now, I'm on administrative leave. I'm going on vacation. So I'll see y'all later. And they're like, sir. And he's like, nope. And he just leaves because he's broken. Right. And that then could launch, although somewhere in there, you would have to know that the Enterprise crew, well, they've already tried. They did their investigation. As far as they could tell, there was nothing, right? That it shows that they did it, but it also shows they didn't do it. It's just like Star Trek 6, where he's like, but our torpedoes are all here. Well, it clearly fired from us. So explain that.
Yeah.
And it's maybe not until they get to Earth that they're able to continue the investigation.
Okay. Let me pick up that thread. Okay, so I would say continue the plot from there, and they stay on Earth for quite a while.
Yeah.
Like more months go by. And each crew member goes off and does their own thing. Some stayed on Earth, some didn't. But that's when Daniels visits Archer and gives him the clue of what to do. But he has no ship anymore. So he has to hire a ship. He's got to hire like a rogue ship or something like that.
What if they Star Trek 3'd it?
Yes.
And they steal the
they
Enterprise.
can steal the Enterprise back. Yes. They steal it back out of dry dock.
How do you top that? No, you got to do it differently. Have them steal. Maybe it's sitting on Earth. Maybe they docked it on the ground. And
sure.
Something, I don't know.
Then that would make, because they had a similar scene in the episode.
What if when they steal it? Okay.
Yes.
What if instead of being in space dock, because they don't have the mushroom station yet.
Yeah.
What if it's just in the big skeleton thing, and it's got one nacelle because they've taken one off. Like that's how screwed they are, and they take off with one nacelle. Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
Okay. I kind of like it. It's fine. It's fine. And
to add insult,
I think them stealing the ship.
Yeah.
Because we had a similar scene in the episode where after Archer learned what he needs to learn from Daniels, he goes and talks to everyone on the bridge saying, we're going to ignore everyone, every communication from Starfleet. Basically, we're growing rogue, and everybody kind of goes along with it.
Right.
They could have had something similar where he calls everybody up and says, hey, we didn't do this. We got to go back there. So, we got to get our ship. And then it's a skeleton crew, just like in 3. It's got a few people. They automate engineering.
Yes. One nacelle. And even when they fly over in their little pod to steal it, to add insult to injury, they've scrubbed out the name Enterprise. Not even the Enterprise anymore. Just NX.
It just says
blank.
NX something. What if while they're pulling out, Admiral Forrester calls him up and says, "Archer, you do this, you'll never sit in the captain's chair again."
What one? Yes, I know. Of course. You do this, you'll never sit in the captain's chair again. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that would have been. Oh man.
No. Do a callback.
Okay.
To the first episode, to the two-parter, Broken Bow, where they're looking at Klang's body, and Archer says, we're going to take him back, and Saval goes, "You're making a mistake," and he goes, "Well, what are you doing there? Getting a little emotional? What if it's Saval that comes on the screen and says, "You're making a mistake"? Oh, getting emotional. All right, thank you. That's exactly what I needed.
Okay.
Warp 4, I guess. We can't go very fast. Okay. Bloop.
Yeah. Hey, then I guess the rest of the episode could play out. The rest of this part could play out kind of similarly to how it did.
Mm-hmm.
They go, they find the ship, they find the cloaked whatever they need to find to prove that they didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then they can send that information back to Admiral Forrest, and he could still be pissed, but say, okay.
No, that hasn't even happened yet.
No?
Like, let's say they know, but they're getting their transmissions jammed. Because
Suliban are jamming the transmission.
Yeah, because there's no way they're going to let them go back there and prove this. So they've got the evidence, but they can't get it out, and they're stuck. And maybe it basically ends the same way where they get surrounded. But that was kind of neat, where the ship is, they're like, our warp field is funny. What's going on? And they realize, okay, this is happening again, and they're all there. That was actually a kind of a neat idea, and have him say, send over the captain, have it end the same way. But although I think, again, not remembering how part 2 plays out, maybe even that stuff of them figuring it out, maybe that should be held in our hypothetical part 2, where really this maybe
that could be the cliffhanger.
The cliffhanger is them stealing
it. Yes.
That's it. And then everything else happens, and we can come up with our own part 2.
Yeah, we would not. Yeah, I mean, imagine watching that for the first time. They steal it. We don't know if they're going to find what they're looking for or not. Of course, we assume they will. But
instead of the Mr. Worf fire, instead of that, it would the last shot. Because Archer says, someone on the screen saying, you're making a mistake. Warp 1.
Yeah.
And then the last bit would be on Earth, where Saval, because now let's say Saval sent that message. He's in Admiral Forrest's office, and he turns to him and he says, well, and Forrest says, all right, send your ships. Go get them. Like this is bad.
Yeah, this is bad.
This is really bad.
Yes.
And what a great way to go. That would be, go get Archer. Dead or alive.
Man, that would have been really good.
That would have been great. I would have loved to have seen the Enterprise with one nacelle gone because they wanted it for another ship. The name scrubbed out. Man, that would have been epic. Yeah. And what a button to a season, which was, although they most definitely did not fulfill their own, just like Voyager, their own series idea. I felt too often the show got comfortable, and you and I have talked about this many times. We really wanted to see them struggle more and always be outgunned more and things like that. And I think the ending of a season like you and I are talking about would be a great button for a series season that should have been building towards, should they even be out there, and this is, of course, my God, it appears maybe they shouldn't be. Look what they did, and have it end on the worst down note ever. I think that would have been awesome.
Do you think it would have been better, maybe heighten the suspense, if, say, in our rewritten episode, if Archer, whomever, did not get a hint from Daniels? They just had to go back on their own volition.
Oh yeah, I don't think we should have seen Daniels at all in our part 1.
Okay.
They're going back there to get answers. That's it. Because they're not going down like this,
Yeah.
Do you think the whole, bridge crew should have gone, or do you think it should have just been like Archer tripping to Paul?
Well, we got to get the whole cast back.
Got to bring the gang back?
Yes.
You sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I feel like it'd be I don't know.
Well, maybe we could.
Something special about it.
Maybe we could. Okay, maybe we could do this. Have some of them go, right? And then some of them help out in other ways. Maybe like, Uhura sabotaged such and such. And, so not everybody went. So maybe they could each do their own thing to help out somewhere else. And they could have scenes
maybe
in part 2.
Because it would seem like Phlox wouldn't have anything to do. So they could, he's reassigned or something like that. So he doesn't have to be there,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just throwing something out there.
No, I think you make a good point. It would seem convenient that we're able to get the whole crew back.
Maybe just Archer, Trip, to Paul, and Malcolm, because Malcolm wants to shoot at things and he feels responsible. So he's coming,
Yeah. But I would love to see the other characters involved doing something to help them out in some way. Like once they find out that the Enterprise has been stolen, that Archer's gone back, they're going to find out and they're going to want to help.
I'm just thinking, what if, I mean, they would never top Star Trek 3, stealing the Enterprise
obviously
there.
not.
But what if some of the crew's been reassigned to, because, like Scotty was reassigned to the Excelsior, for example. What if we cut to a ship and it's a Federation ship and it comes after Archer as they're pulling out of space dock or whatever to go. And the captain on there goes, "Helmsman, warp 4, engage." And they pan down and it's Travis.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, geez, sir, I just can't get it to go. I don't know why it won't go." He's like, "Damn it, man." And he delayed it, just something. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there, some way, or Hoshi, does something to the communication systems. Who knows?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want too many overt homages to Star Trek 3. I would love if somebody over the comm said, "Sir, somebody's stealing the Enterprise," but you don't want to go too far.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, someone's going to say, "If my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wagon." And you're like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah. No, that would have been great.
I know, man. Too bad but the episode we got was okay. And, we haven't really talked about what really happened in it. But it was a lot of setup for something that's going to be resolved next week for us.
Well, you see, that's the thing, it's a lot of setup, which the problem is the episode has 2 setups as it is. It has the setup of what's going to happen to Archer and the Enterprise. Are they going to be blamed? And the setup of what actually happened, like the time travel stuff, because once Daniels gets involved, you realize it's having to do with that. So, you have 2 setups, and one of those setups gets resolved in the first episode, which is, we know the Enterprise didn't do it. They have proof.
Right.
The Admiralty knows. It's like, well, that tension's all gone. So now it's all about beating.
Yeah, that was really a mistake. Why would they let that go so soon?
It was such a wasted opportunity.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, for the whole season,
it was so great seeing Archer pissed
defeated.
Like that.
Yes. And that's what the whole darn thing was about. Like, what? It seems to me such a writing mistake to not take advantage of that and set the show up that way. In fact, I know I'm jumping the gun here, but oh no, I stand corrected. I'm not jumping the gun. I think you and I talked about in the first episode, the pilot. I don't know if we talked about it or if one of us had read in trivia that they being the producers, toyed with the idea of maybe the first half of the season 1 taking place on Earth and them getting ready to get out there and not quite leaving Earth yet, and that being shot down. I don't know where I'm getting that.
I remember us talking about that.
I don't remember if it was our idea or if it was something Berman and Braga thought, and Paramount said, no, okay. They're in space.
Okay.
I don't know, but given what the whole first season was about, that seems like a very logical conclusion to leave you on the cliffhanger of, are they going to get out of this one? And it's not about who lives or dies. That's not about it. It's about they failed. Now, we know as an audience, of course, this will get resolved. But to see it done to the extent that you and I are talking about would have been awesome and brave.
Right. I think they had an interesting idea. They just didn't take it far enough.
They didn't.
Which is something we've said a lot of. They're playing it too safe.
Well, what I'd be willing to bet is that they broke the idea and it was all in their minds about the time travel plot, you know, and what was going to happen with that. And then the business of them getting sent back to Earth was just kind of secondary filler. Right. But what they didn't realize was that really became better.
The heart of the episode.
And really what it should have been about. But of course, and they may have honestly thought about it at the time, realized, oh man, but we're too far into it. We got to commit to this idea.
Yeah. And they, you know, I mean, you know, in all fairness, you know, what they left us with was a decent cliffhanger. You know, they go to a future where it's the 31st century.
Right.
Looks like Earth was destroyed a long time ago.
Don't know like how. Escape from New York.
Right. Or Escape from LA. Right. Either one. I know that's blasphemy. Can't say that about New York. It's the best one. Okay.
I like.
I like LA too. I know. It's so goofy.
It's crazy.
Yeah, all the time traveling machines are gone. They can't fix any. What are they going to do? That's fair. It's okay. It's just okay. But it's not like Best of Both Worlds Part 1 with that ending where you like, how the hell are they going to get out of this? You know, Picard's been assimilated. Their plans are up in smoke now. What
I
are we
really
gonna do?
Think if they had made the episode the way we just came up with, that would have rivaled Best of Both Worlds Part 1. And it's like, oh my God, you know, and to literally see the Enterprise have
really throw
apart.
Some caution to the wind. I mean, they were rolling the dice with Best of Both Worlds. You know, they didn't know how they were going to resolve it. We know that now. Mm-hmm. But
well, that was a bit of trivia that I read, which was that normally the writer's room does not have a plan for Part 2. They figure that out when they come back from their hiatus, from the break. But this time they finished Part 1 and they actually plotted out the next 2 or 3 episodes before they went on break. So they kind of knew where they were going. Probably a good idea.
Yeah, you know? Usually that is a better thing.
Which is why they came up with Carbon Creek. And I actually read that Carbon Creek was shot before. Well, yeah, we knew that. Carbon Creek was shot before what ends up being the first episode of the second season. Carbon Creek is like the second episode.
Oh, I see.
But yeah, Shockwave Part 2. But they actually filmed Carbon Creek first because they needed to bring some people back and get that done for whatever reason. Just FYI. So,
well, that's good. I didn't know that.
It's good to know. Yeah, I knew that they came back early. That T'Pol and whoever else shows up in that, they just, because most of it was, you know, off in the woods wherever they shot this thing. So I'm assuming that's one of those ones that they planned right after they finished writing this that Berman was alluding to. But as you know. Well, like you said, is there anything about the episode itself that we do want to talk about?
No, because it was fairly straightforward. I mean, like you've already said, the parts that were really great was the stuff that they didn't accentuate, and that was them losing their mission, possibly the ship. You don't know what's going to happen, and seeing Archer really, they didn't put him through the ringer too much, but to some degree, to see him actually feel guilt and anger, depression. He didn't know what he was going to do. You know, basically he lost this gamble. Seeing him deal with that, seeing the character almost hit rock bottom was interesting. Seeing the other characters have to deal with the fact that this was all over was interesting.
Yeah.
But so if we're gonna talk about the show in that way, like what is it about? Who was it about? It was mostly about Archer, for a large portion of it.
Sure.
And what are the ramifications? Well,
that's the problem. The ramifications are settled when they have proof.
Yeah, because they've proven they didn't do it.
Yeah, so the ramifications, unfortunately, is where the episode really, in my opinion, was a letdown. Right. Because at this point, well, we know they're going to we're going to solve the problem. It's just how many Suliban are they going to blow up before they solve it?
Well, see, yes, that reminds me of the Quantum Leap episode. That's what I was trying to remember what other episode this reminded me of. It was Quantum Leap. There was a whole episode devoted to this similar premise where Al is defending the project in a courtroom.
Sure.
And
I know that one.
Right. Maybe people out there listening, you know what it is too. But the whole episode is Al trying to not get them to cancel the budget or the funding so they can keep Quantum Leap going. And, of course, they're going back and forth between what Sam is doing during the leap and whatnot.
And they're having a real problem because the people on the commission that will dole out the money, they don't see the effects of what Sam does because time has changed. And as far as they're concerned, he has absolutely no effect on time.
Right. But that's where the drama is.
But that actually has a button at the end, which is nice.
It does. But that's where the drama of that episode lied. And that's where they put all the focus was, are they going to be able to save Quantum Leap?
Right.
Are they going to cancel it? Well,
is Sam going to be left stuck in time?
Yeah, we didn't know, and that's where it worked. And they could have done that here. They had Scott Bakula. They could have done that here. Unfortunately, but it was fine. I liked it. I enjoyed the episode.
Yeah, it was fine. It's not like there was anything overtly wrong with it. It was frustrating because you realize as it's playing, the meat is done and gone. And it does, it does leave you on an interesting cliffhanger as far as, this is the 31st. That's great. I don't know the 31st century. All I know is Daniel's from it. Now all we're seeing is a burned out city. It could be from any time. Doesn't even look like the future at that point. So it doesn't hold any emotional weight.
Right.
And that's unfortunate.
If anything, I would have made like the investigation to uncovering, because we would do that in our hypothetical part 2 when they uncover what really destroyed the colony. That would be in part 2. Make that harder. Make it take longer.
Yeah.
Make them feel like they're maybe never going to find the answer. Maybe they have to, what's the word I'm looking for? Come on, help me out here.
I don't know where.
I don't know where they. God, my brain is.
They just have to work for it, and the reason they wouldn't necessarily have done it already when it happened is because they were immediately ordered back to Earth, and they say, no, you guys get back here now. And, they're it's almost like the Genesis planet, no one may go to Plenarath 3 or whatever it was. And, they're going there against orders. And the first thing, they're just going there to investigate, and I don't know how, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Anyone could come up with the how they figure it out. But yeah, that's the meat of part 2. And then I don't mind if they want to bring the Suliban in and have it be where they were trying to alter time. That's fine, but then resolve it really quickly, and then send Archer back because Daniel says, hey, this was never supposed to happen, man. And he sends him back and he's able to prevent it because like the Enterprise, like you said, maybe have it taken apart to where they can't even use it. Maybe they have to use another ship, which would have been interesting, to have the last shot of that first episode be Enterprise with the nacelles off and the name scrubbed out, whatever. And all of its little ports being pulled. But the investigation, the Suliban, send him back, have him reset things, and then boom, fine, we're back. That's cool. But it's just unfortunate because although that time travel is obviously going to be a thing. I mean, I do remember one or two. I remember a scene from part 2 when they're walking around that headquarters of Daniel's, that they're in a library, a burned out library, and Archer comes across a book and he goes, oh, what's this? Romulan Star Empire. And Daniels goes, you're not ready for that. Put it back. And he goes, in fact, don't look at any of this. This is no good. I don't see, frankly, I don't see how part 2 is going to hold up because like we've pointed out, the meat's done.
Well, I think it'll still be interesting. I don't think it's...
They just have to get away and then obviously go back and fix it where that place doesn't get destroyed.
This was a quality episode. I think its part 2 will be quality as well.
I'm sure it's quality. It's unfortunately,
Well, because we love the story we just pitched so much better.
well, it is better.
Well, of course, but
Well, I think this
the episode by itself is fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But that's the problem. And that's
it's just fine.
It's just fine. That's the problem with the season as a whole. It was fine.
Like they didn't take enough risks.
They did not take enough risks. And, this episode is, I think, a really great example of how the show went wrong.
Well, they did a few
When
times.
I say the show, I mean the season.
Dear Doctor, they took some
Yes,
risks.
I'm not saying it was all a loss. That we know that there were some exceptions. But
they took a risk with Terra Nova making such a terrible episode.
They did. They wanted to see if people would come back. But yeah, no, I think this episode really represents what's wrong with Enterprise at this point, which is there's good ideas in there that they simply don't exploit, and they don't have the guts to really go for. And that's the whole season.
I can imagine that there's more going on in the writers' room than we're made privy to. I think.
Well, we've talked about that. I'm sure there is.
Yeah, that maybe they're having all these wild ideas, but it's like, hey, we just don't have the money for that. We got to tone it down, something like that.
Disappointing.
Well, I agree, but that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. The writers don't control the budget.
Well, we don't know. We don't know if that was it ever entertained, but to have the series at this point be just okay is not good. And especially given how many episodes that we've seen where we thought, man, it would have been really good if just this, like when they finally got to Risa, there was almost something there. And then they blew it. They went, they kind of didn't commit.
Yeah, I feel like they were trying to, I know we use the word bland a lot, mostly to refer to its aesthetic, but I think what they were trying to do was just appease everyone.
Right.
So it made it feel kind of bland. Unlike like the Battlestar Galactica remake, where that show, although it fell off in its last season or so, as it went along, it really took chances and did things they didn't know were going to work. There was that one where they abandoned Battlestar Galactica entirely. They went on New Caprica for a whole arc, and what the hell? Nobody saw that coming. Like, what is this?
Yeah,
like, where's the ship? And
Apollo got fat.
Yeah, he got fat. Yeah, it was a big risk.
It was.
They didn't know if people were going to like that.
But you're right. That was incredibly brave and a really great way to break up the status quo.
Yeah, and
this show has so many instances of a good idea that they didn't exploit. And that's a real shame. And unfortunately, we just don't know. Is that because the producers didn't have the guts, or did they have the guts and Paramount shut them down? I don't know. But it's really where the show is at. And I remember scrolling through, seeing some of the titles for season 2, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that one. I know it gets better, but as a whole, so far, disappointing is what I would call this series so far. Not great. It's just okay. Disappointing in that it had the potential to be so much more, and it wasn't. It became, the often used phrase Voyager Light, when referring to Voyager compared to TNG, which I do somewhat disagree with. But this show just, like you said, it didn't take chances. It just didn't take chances. And, I think one of the many reasons the series didn't get past season 4 was because they didn't take chances. And Star Trek as a property at this point needed to do something different. And the concept was fine, the idea of the first ship to get out there, but it became so, you and I were talking about Voyager the other day. That's where I was going. And we came up with a whole new concept for what Voyager should have been. And
pitch our idea.
I will.
Okay.
I will. But, the idea is that, for the first couple of episodes, Voyager sets you up that there's this internal conflict going on within the ship, but then by about episode 3 it's all gone.
And you're referring to the conflict between
with the Maquis and the Voyager Starfleet crew.
Right.
And that was supposed to be kind of a thing, but
And
by
it
about
almost-
episode
it kind
3
of was for a little bit.
not long.
Not long. No, you're right.
Within a handful of episodes, everyone is chummy and getting along fine.
You
It's
forget that they even were Maquis.
exactly. Why even bother?
Yeah, I mean, if you told me in season 7, oh yeah, Chakotay was Maquis. Oh yeah, that's right, he was.
Yeah. Why bother? Why
Forgot
bother?
about that.
Everything became too status quo, and this show became too status quo, which is again something you and I talked about many, many times throughout many episodes of this first season, which is they got out of something too easy. They didn't fight harder. They should have lost. They should have done this. You know, you and I enjoyed the what was it, Silent Enemy? Is that the one where they were outmanned, outgunned, whatever, and it was a mystery, and they never figured it out. You know, and they got out of it by luck. You know, and that was good. And you wanted to see more.
And it was a
of
simple
that.
episode.
It was simple.
Yeah.
They're just being chased, and they don't know why. Great.
Yeah.
You know, should have had more like that.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it didn't. It was episodes like
Rogue Planet,
2 days and 2 nights, or Rogue Planet, and you're like, man,
yeah,
all of this opportunity squandered.
Is that what we're in right now with current Star Trek? I don't watch current Star Trek. I mean, you've seen a good deal of it, but is it, you don't feel like they want to break the status quo?
No. Modern Star Trek is something absolutely different entirely. You have it comes in 2 different flavors. There's the animated Star Trek, which is Lower Decks.
There's more than Lower Decks.
Yeah, there's oh gosh, what was it called?
It was Prodigy or something?
Prodigy.
Okay.
Yeah. I've seen 1 episode of Lower Decks, and it's not that it's not amusing. It is. It's well written and it's fun, but it's not Star Trek. I have never seen Prodigy. I believe the idea was to tell a story of Star Trek with all alien-like characters. I think. Don't quote me on that. But I haven't seen it, so I really can't say. But I can tell you Lower Decks is not Star Trek. It likes to think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you show reverence for something doesn't mean that you are safely writing in that universe. It doesn't work that way. Then there's the live action Star Trek, which is Discovery and Strange New Worlds. So to answer your question, are they breaking the mold?
No, do they ever?
Well,
are they afraid to? Do they stick to that status quo, whatever that status quo is?
Discovery actually does, but unfortunately it breaks it so much that just like Lower Decks, it's not Star Trek anymore. There are conventions and things that are Star Trek, and Discovery is unfortunately caught in modern day politics and cannot. I mean, I don't know how to explain it without going.
Can't break free from that.
It's god awful. It's absolutely god awful. It's so badly written, and
aside from the modern day politics,
like
badly written,
it
regardless.
Is beautifully produced. I mean, my Lord. I can't imagine how much these things cost. They look like movies every episode. It's amazing looking.
Yeah, I mean, you and I watched the end of Star Trek
watched
Picard.
Oh yeah, well,
and
Picard,
that looked like a movie.
It does. It does look like a movie. And
I mean, it was in scope.
Even modern day, the first 2 seasons of Picard were generally not good, and they all fell into the same traps where everything has to be quote unquote dark or edgy. Everyone has to have angst. Everyone's got to have a backstory that's troubling and all of that. And everyone has to share their feelings all the time. And we all have to hear it, and we all have to clap and pat them on their backs for what a wonderful job they're doing. And gosh, you're just so good at everyone's a genius. And this started with JJ Trek. Everyone's a genius. Chekhov, well, he's the Russian genius. Sulu, he's a genius and he can ninja fight. And Kirk, he's not just a good captain, he's also a genius. Uhura is a communications genius, prodigy, genius. Everyone's a genius. And it's the same thing on Discovery. Everyone's a genius. Everyone's the best ever at everything. And it's sickening. However, to its credit, Discovery, in realizing that they had a problem, because the first season had actually kind of like a neat idea that they followed through on, but then they got full of themselves and they didn't realize why it actually worked in a lot of ways. And then the second season was kind of a mess, and they brought on Pike, and that's what saved the show. And everyone knew that. Everyone knew that's why everyone was watching Discovery now, because of Pike. And that guy was so good, they gave him his own show, and then immediately took a dump on him and made the show woke and had everything look like Star Trek. It sounds like Star Trek, but it's like...
That was a series where they did the musical, right?
Oh God. Yeah, that I'm done. I can't go back after that. Like, you've gone too far. You've gone too far. You can't, there's just some things you can't undo. And that's going entirely too far. I think they had some good moments and all of that, but Star Trek at this point is being produced and told by people that simply do not understand it. It's just that simple. And they may even like it, but they don't know why it worked. But I honestly think, for the most part, that it is being made by people that kind of don't really like what it was. Just like Kathleen Kennedy clearly does not actually like the Star Wars trilogy.
Oh,
and
that's kind of par for the course with a lot of things in Hollywood.
It is, but that's the problem with modern day Trek, is that everything's a deconstruction. Everything's a goddamn deconstruction.
Well, yeah, the original would be too sexist, too chauvinistic.
Oh, it is. It's terrible. It's just terrible. And there are nuggets of good things in there. And again, this is one of those things that Discovery, which was kind of interesting at the end of the second season, realizing they had absolutely written themselves into a corner with what happened at the end of the season, the second season. They take the ship and the crew like 3,000 years in the future, like way in the future. And you think, oh, well, they're going to come back, right? No, that's it. They've now spent 2 seasons in the far distant future. And they are again, here's an interesting idea. They were supposed to be the anachronistic ones. And anachronistic.
You got it.
And Starfleet isn't what it used to be, and all of this, and the future's different. They don't have ships the way they used to because warp travel isn't allowed, or it's not possible. And they're the only warp capable ship and things like that. And you're like, oh, wow, this is a really interesting idea.
It does sound interesting.
It kind of was.
Yeah.
And there's nuggets of good things in there, but then they cave in on themselves because they're afraid to take that premise to its fullest extent. And then guess what? By about the second or third episode, everyone just loves the Discovery people. Yay, Discovery, you're so wonderful. You're 3,000 years out of date, but please tell us what to do. We're all so dumb without you. And you're just like, all right, this sucks. I'm done. And then it's just more of the same. I don't even know why. I don't know how that show keeps getting money. They're just flushing money down the toilet. And then Picard was the same thing. It was a deconstruction. The first season was a deconstruction of Jean-Luc Picard, and it made you sick to see it. And you didn't see that. There was actually a scene, I'm sure you saw memes of it or video clips of it, where Picard, who is arguably, even in his retirement, which he was at that point, one of the most important people in Starfleet history, Federation history, right? This guy's done things, big things. He goes into an admiral's office and asks for something. And she tells him, and I quote, sheer fucking hubris. And she tells him, shut the fuck up. She actually says those words. She swears twice.
I've seen the clip.
And you're like, no. And I'm not saying they needed to show reverence to Picard the way we, the fans, do. Picard, I mean, just like Kirk, he saved the universe multiple times. But it's all a deconstruction. And and it's horrible. And then in the second season, yet more deconstruction. Well, he's damaged, and he's just now learning this because his mother killed herself, and she was psychologically damaged, and the father hid it and all this stuff. And that's why Picard's the way he is. You're like, no, stop it. What are you doing? Oh, and guess what? Also, 7 of 9, lesbian, because why not?
Oh, she is.
Yeah, sure. She's outright murdering people and all of that. And it's an absolute disaster. And you're just like, what are you doing? And then they tried to write the course in season 3. And I know everyone's, it was good. It wasn't great. It was definitely covered in heavy layers of the stuff that modern day Trek is. What they did do is show respect to the characters. I didn't like the subplots of the sun and all that stuff. I could have done without it. It was interesting, but too flashy. And my God, turn the lights on. I'm really sick of that. Turn the lights on in these ships. But the whole thing was only saved by someone, Terry Matalas, who actually respected the characters and treated them respectfully. It could have been better written, I would say, but he actually showed respect for the characters, which was nice. And that's what worked, but here we are, and yes, it's taking chances in some respects, but it's also taking huge steps back. And it's disappointing. And I don't see how it's ever going to come back because it's in the wrong hands.
Are you talking about Enterprise this time, or which one?
Are we back?
I'm not sure where you were.
Well, I was talking about modern day Trek.
Okay, just modern day Trek in general.
Yeah,
okay.
But then, Enterprise unfortunately suffered a similar fate where they were just afraid to take chances. Mm-hmm. And DS9 was taking a chance as a concept of a series.
Well, at least Enterprise, at its core, knew what Trek was.
Oh, yes. It was respectful to Trek.
Yeah, whatever this new Trek is doesn't.
No, it's not.
No.
They think they are, but they don't understand what Trek is. That's the problem. They don't understand it. They have a very superficial understanding of what Star Trek is, which is, I think, probably what held Enterprise back at the beginning, which was that I think Rick Berman and Braga knew what Star Trek was. And I'm sure they had probably some interesting ideas, especially Braga. He likes to play around, but I'm sure it was Paramount, the bigger people that said, oh, no. You can't it's Star Trek, put them on the ship, have the ship go, none of that. No, don't take any chances. We let you do it with that Deep Space Nine.
Yeah,
thing.
that was
no one watched that. So no, you're not doing that. So it's unfortunate. I think Star Trek at this point in its time, as in the Enterprise time, was a victim of its own preconceived notions, and the idea of stripping the Enterprise and taking it apart because they failed. That's, well, what will the viewers think? They'll think the show's over. No, they won't. They're not stupid. They'll come back. They'll want to see what happens, but they're, someone's afraid. I'm sure Braga would have been like, hell yeah, let's do that. That would have been awesome. And he loves time travel. He'd have been like, yeah, let's completely wreck them before we go back and fix it. But, it's unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. I don't know how we got on this. Pitch our Voyager idea.
Well, you were going to do that, so I figured you...
You do it. I've been talking now.
Well, go ahead. Just keep going.
Fine. All right. So we already mentioned how the Maquis and the Federation crew had to join together on Voyager. That was the premise, and then find their way home. Which they didn't use by the third, fourth, fifth episode. It's you would never know that was even an issue on the ship. You and I came up with the idea. We settled on, what if that ship that they had to merge with was not a Maquis ship? What if it was a Klingon ship, like a Bird of Prey? Even not a huge crew, good amount though, and a good, I don't want to say even, maybe 1/3 of the ship would have been Klingons. That's not good.
A lot.
That's a lot of Klingons.
Yes.
And they could take a lot of people out one, at a time. So, that's a formidable threat. And you and I thought it would have been really interesting to see, instead of Chakotay, it's a Klingon.
Right.
Well, first of all, we wanted Tony Todd as a Klingon. Hell, have it be Kern. Why not? Have the Klingon first officer, have a Klingon engineer if they want to go that route. And I don't know, a Klingon doctor would almost be funny. Oh, chop his arm off. Whoa. No, don't do that. Okay. Kill him. He's no good.
Yeah.
There are no Klingon doctors. But it would have been interesting, and especially if they followed through, which is, it's not just a command structure that is now being challenged. It's a cultural challenge, because the line would always be drawn. These are not Klingon. You know, the Maquis were Federation citizens, you know. They believed in the same essential things that the Voyager crew did. They just had a different command structure. But Klingons, that's completely different. And at no point would I ever have wanted to see those Klingons be converted to a Federation way of style. It would always be a light tension.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Worf was not the example, because Worf was raised by humans. We're talking about Kern, when Kern came onto the Enterprise and he had to tell Riker, you know, I had to restrain myself from killing you earlier when you gave me a suggestion. Yes. He meant that.
Yeah. People, they thought he was joking.
Yeah. Or when Riker went onto that Klingon ship for an episode, he had to adapt to their way of doing things. And could you imagine what a whole series like that would be if they kept it up? Mm-hmm. Yes, they would come to respect each other. Even their relationship on TNG, the Federation's relationship, even Picard's direct relationship with Gowron, they helped each other out, did favors for each other, but they would butt up against culture. And that was interesting. I mean, just imagine what Voyager would have been like had it been that. And a Klingon captain having to take orders from a Federation captain woman, that would be interesting, you know? And a guy that could physically probably squash her, you know, interesting, you know, and just filled with potential. And
maybe that could happen in episode 1 where, because the Klingon ship has been destroyed.
Right.
Okay. So all the Klingons have to move over to Voyager, but the captain of the Klingon ship, he doesn't want to take orders from Janeway. So Janeway and this Klingon captain, they have to fight. They have to have a duel for leadership. And somehow Janeway wins. I have no idea how she could do it. She'd have to outsmart him some way, but
yeah, it can't be physical.
No, like in a you know, fisticuffs fight, she'd lose, but she'd have to outsmart him in some way. And then she would earn his respect a little bit because she used her intelligence to beat him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you really want to make Klingon culture, it would come down to a fight. He wouldn't just give up command.
Think how great that would have been in the first episode.
Oh, that would have been epic. Yeah, and like he's just like Batman v Superman, where Bruce has him.
Yeah,
you know, and it's something that changes his mind. You know, there could be something where like he's gonna get Janeway physically, but then she outsmarts him just in the last minute and barely inches by, which would have been an itch. Remember at the end, I think does this happen in the pilot where
maybe they could have done like a Rocky 3 homage where like the captain, you know, the Klingon captain says like the whole time, like, all right, you promise we're going to fight again one day, right?
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Get a rematch, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and Tuvok would always have to remind her, Captain, don't show weakness. He'll kill you.
Yeah, he will kill you.
And then I'll have to kill him. And it's going to be really ugly. You know, that would have been fascinating. Fascinating. But they didn't do it. You know.
Well, it's a shame. I think we should get to grading this episode.
Sure. All right.
I think I'll give it a B+. I mean, it was good. It definitely not an 8.4. I didn't think it was that strong, but I did think it was pretty well put together.
Isn't an 8.4 essentially a B+?
Wow.
You're not in the 9s.
I guess that's true.
Or maybe that's a solid B. Maybe like an 8.7 is getting into B+ territory. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Well,
because that's where I go with it. B.
You made some logic there. That's true. I guess you're right. I would go down to a B.
Okay.
Definitely better than average, but
Yeah.
because of all the missed opportunities, just can't quite bump it up higher into the A category.
Yeah.
Even though the internet really seems to like it.
I'm frankly surprised. Really.
I mean, I wonder, people listening, if they really disagree with us on this one,
I said it before and I'll say it again. It's easy for us to armchair direct these episodes.
Yeah.
All this time later. But, if you caught you and I right after this originally aired, I'd be very curious to see what we would say. But looking at it now,
it's like, get away from me.
Are you still talking about this? Yeah. But we are looking at it now, and that's how we're gonna rate it.
Yeah. Well, did you have any awards you'd like to give? Do you have any trivia?
Well, why don't you do one? I'll look up at the awards and see if I have one that fits.
Well, I have a piece of trivia for you from the episode we just watched.
All right.
Okay. In the beginning of the episode, Trip is teasing Archer about a phrase that he tends to say often, over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what that catchphrase was?
No.
We're making history with every light year.
Oh, right. Yeah, he was quoting his dad.
Okay.
That's where that came from.
Did you have any trivia for me?
Trivia? No, unfortunately not. I didn't think about that.
Okay. Did you have any awards?
A little. I would say there's ironically, the Trip Tucker Award for petulance.
There was two instances.
Goes to Trip Tucker.
Yes, to the man himself.
When he was talking to Phlox.
Yes.
And he wasn't even he was yelling and being that arrogant self. He wasn't meaning it towards
Phlox. Was being very mellow.
Phlox was just like, hey man, these things happen. It's fine,
Yeah.
And it was annoying to see him like that again.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh, there he is.
Well,
they really should just not let him talk like that, because he's really repugnant when he does that. Other than that, no, I don't think so.
Well, I did have an award. I didn't have a best moment or worst moment, but I did have one award, aside from, because I also had the Trip Tucker Award for petulance. But I have the Shatner Award for best dramatic performance, goes to Scott Bakula as Archer, when he had to look very sullen and sad
Dismissed.
as he was being consoled by his dog. Do you remember? I thought that was great.
Yeah. That is, yeah.
Great acting from the dog and Scott Bakula.
Yeah. Good point.
Well, I guess that
I would have liked to, you know what?
doesn't wrap it up. What?
No, I want to back up a little bit.
Okay.
To add to the extra bits that I think they really missed the ball.
Okay.
When he calls and talks to Forrest, they really need to give Forrest some cojones, man. I mean, he needs to be pissed.
Yeah.
If ever there was a time.
It does seem like he's giving in a little too easily.
Well, gosh, this is just a real shame. I guess you better come back home. He should have been yelling at him. What in God's name are you doing out there?
Yeah, I thought he was taken over by a shapeshifter
right
or something.
Back.
I was like, who is this guy?
I mean, admirals that talk to Picard, they were usually like pretty stern and pretty tough.
Yeah, like Admiral Pachev.
Yeah, Pachev. Like, man, Picard had to chase her. That was really nice to see.
Yeah,
and even Riker, she
humiliated him.
Riker could never gain any. She was constantly crapping
after season 3. Nobody gave Riker any respect.
I can't believe the Cardassians would want war. I didn't say war, Commander. I said incursion. Well, fine then. Forget. I don't want to talk anyway. Okay. She just, it was great. They don't do that. They really needed to do that with Archer and Forrest. It was nice that they had a, kind of a thing, but at some point, he's in trouble too. Because he put Archer in command. So that's unfortunate. Sorry. Yeah, it's just one more thing that popped in there.
Well, I guess that wraps it up.
Yeah.
So that's the end of season 1.
That is.
Made it all the way to the end. We'll be back next week with our recap. We're going to do a recap. and then we'll do.
I almost feel like we
just did.
We should take that whole section and do a beginning and a tag, and have that be that whole extra episode in between.
You were talking a lot about like Star Trek Discovery, and then you were off in a whole new place.
Sorry.
I don't think we could make that part of the. No, I mean, I think we'd have to. I mean, the recap episode is supposed to be us going through kind of recollecting each one.
But the big highs and lows.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll be back next week with our recap. And then we'll be back the week after that for Shockwave Part 2.
Okay.
So I'll see you in the next one.